Hi everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to day 3 of 12 Days of Christmas. Today we're going to be focusing on a technique rather than a new stamp. And I'm going to show you how to take a non-traditional Christmas stamp and turn it into a holiday card. So this house stamp I've had for a while, and I've used it for housewarming parties. I've used it to welcome people to the neighborhood, but I've never used it on a Christmas card. But I recently saw a video where somebody took a sentiment and used it as a background for an image. And I thought the sentiment that I had in my stash would pair up nicely with this house. Now the cardstock that I just stamped on is a piece that I ran through my Big Shot and die cut with my rectangular stitch die. And you've noticed on a lot of my cards, that's typically how I'll start my project. I'm using the Post-it note to actually work as a mask over my stamped image. And I know there's a lot of products out there that will mask your projects, but this Post-it note is actually full adhesive. And if you have smaller images, this works just fine. So after I've stamped my image, I fussy cut my Post-it note to place over my stamped image. So for this technique, I have to say the MISTI is a lifesaver, because while I could probably have done this without the MISTI, working with the MISTI and my grid paper made this technique so much easier. You're going to see as I work along how I just eased up my white cardstock line by line to create my background. Now the sentiment reads, "From our home to yours." So you can see why I thought that this sentiment and my house image would work perfectly together. Now using my ruler, I did create a line for my very first stamped image. I wanted to make sure that I did start out on a straight line because that's really going to set the tone for the background. And after each stamp, I just eased it up one line until it's going to cover the house completely. And I'm going to have a background that reads, "From our home to yours." Now for this card, I actually chose to stamp the entire background using gray ink. I've also seen cards where one of the stamped sentiments comes in black, and it's typically the second to the last stamped sentiment on the bottom because that's where they want the readings emphasized. But I had a different idea. Now this Christmas card is rather simple. It's white and it's gray and it doesn't have a lot of pizzazz. So I wanted to add just something a little bit more to make it fancy. After all, it is a Christmas card. So I had this fancy die cut that held the sentiment perfectly. So rather than just stamp the second to the last sentiment in black ink, I chose to actually stamp it in the middle of this die cut and then pop up the die cut just to add a little bit more flair. Now when I'm working with really intricate die cuts, I do like to run it through my Big Shot a second time using a Swiffer. As you can see, this die cut actually has a lot of pieces that punch out, and the Swiffer actually captures a lot of these pieces, enabling me to have a nice clean die cut, not having to worry about using a pick to get all those little pieces out. The ink I'm using for this final sentiment is Black Archival ink, and you're going to see that this sentiment fits nicely on this die cut, and it's a great final addition to the card. Now you might recognize this paper. It is Tim Holtz paper, but it is from an old Christmas collection. But like I said at the beginning, I am trying to use old products that I have in my stash, and the focus for the video today is the technique, not necessarily the product. But I knew that I wanted to use a vintage background, and I didn't really want to have fancy designer paper to take away from the simplicity of the card. So once I had matted the white cardstock onto my Tim Holtz paper, I went ahead and I got some pop-up adhesives to add to the back of my fancy die cut and pop that right at the bottom of the card. And then from here, I just adhered it to some white cardstock, pulled off my post-it, and the card was complete. So I hope that you've enjoyed the video today and that I've given you some ideas on how to use a non-traditional stamp to create a Christmas card. Tomorrow I'm going to be introducing to you a new stamp that I recently picked up from My Favorite Things, and I'm going to be pulling out the Tim Holtz washi tape. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button before you head out. If you've enjoyed the video today, I would appreciate a thumbs up. And don't forget, anybody that leaves a comment on all 12 videos and is subscribed to my channel will be entered into a drawing to win set number 5 of Tim Holtz Distress Crayons. So don't forget to leave a comment, everyone, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for stopping by.